Donald Trump Jr. visits Arizona and lays the groundwork for a visit from his father.
When you look at the problems that we have as a country, it's you guys. It's the millennials. You guys are going to get stuck with this.
But the latest polls show Hillary Clinton inching ahead. Tonight, how the Grand Canyon state became a battleground state. And Newt Gingrich battles it out with Megyn Kelly over sex and scandals.
I want to hear your words, Bill Clinton, sexual predator. I dare you. Say Bill Clinton, sexual predator.
Mr. Speaker,
disbarred by the Arkansas bar.
Plus, filmmaker Michael Moore says the battle is over.
Trump's election is going to be the biggest ever recorded in human history.
Why he thinks Trump has already won. Left versus right. Fox versus the Speaker. And Arizona in the spotlight. It's all part of Politics Unplugged.
And good evening. I'm political editor Dennis Welch, and this is Politics Unplugged. And joining us tonight is the Democratic strategist Andy Barr and Robert Graham, chairman of the Arizona Republican Party, to talk about all of this and more. And I want to start with you, Mr. Graham. Yep. How did Arizona become a battleground state? I mean, it's been widely reported. It's a million times you've heard it's only gone Democrat once since Harry Truman was elected in 1948. It's 1996 when Bill Clinton won here. How'd this happen?
Have no idea. You know, I still fight, and I still hang on to the reality that I believe it's still a Republican state. I mean, if you go from 2014 to where we are today, and the movement we've seen in voter registrations, and even now when we're seeing the early ballot returns, we're very confident it's still a very Republican state.
If you think it's still a Republican state, you don't have any idea how it's got to say a lot then for the guy on the top of the ticket, then turn a lot of voters off.
Those are your words. You know, you look at this.
I'm just reading it too. I'm reading into what you're saying here.
Let me tell you, I wouldn't agree. I would say that right now you've got an election that is unbelievably dynamic and never-ending as far as the movements.
I think two things have happened. One, Democrats are doing more on the ground to sort of build up their infrastructure, register more voters, but that hasn't quite caught us up yet. We're still 180,000 registered voters behind. If we keep up current pace, we're hoping to get on parity in 2020, 22. But, you know, I got to thank Republicans because Donald Trump is running a hell of a campaign for us. Better than we ever could before. There's two things Democrats need to do to win statewide. Bump turnout among Latinos and convince moderate white women in suburbs to vote for Democrats. Donald Trump is the perfect candidate for that.
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's great that you say that, because when we look inside, the Latino voters that we're getting feedback from in southern Arizona specifically, the heavy concentration areas, we're hearing the Democrats have forgotten all about us, and they actually take our vote for granted. The Republicans never come down here because they believe that the Democrats have the vote. And so when we're down there and actually working, when we're down there working, they actually appreciate that, and we're seeing more and more people come to the fold. But as far as suburbia women and stuff like that, when we're doing our surveys, we're finding that
they actually... Why is Donald Trump coming here so late? We just heard that last week that he's going to be here over the weekend.
It's because he's losing.
Yeah, that's why.
Not in Arizona, he's not losing. You can keep dreaming. You know, one day you'll wake up and you'll see this big, bright blue umbrella over your head, and you'll realize
shouldn't he be spending his campaign time then, according to you, if he is going to win the state and he is ahead, shouldn't he be using his time more in states that is more competitive?
This is one of the things that I've said, actually. We're so excited when we hear Hillary Clinton's buying time on the air, when she has these supposed 160 people that they brought in from out of state to pay for and such for work.
They're in state. They're here.
No, I know that. They're people that are. You brought tons of people from out of state. I mean, they've said it multiple times. So, anyways, I'm glad he's happy to do that. But the reality is,
Andy's having a great time over here.
He is. I like it. You know, maybe it's Prop 205 or something like that. But it's. But the reality is we're in a place right now where we want to have the best possible outcome, and we've been mobilizing for 4 years, not 6 weeks. We have millions of calls out there. The feedback we're getting back, and then the early ballot returns point to a decisive victory. So right now you can be confident, you can laugh, but the reality is we're going to have a great outcome.
We are way ahead of where we were in 2012, where we fell only 3 points short of winning a Senate seat in the early ballot return. In terms of on the ground, you guys are talking about surveys. We're actually talking to people at the doors. We have 160 paid staff by the Arizona Democratic Party. How many paid field staff do you guys have? I saw 5 in a report recently that Trump's coming up with.
We've got 140 paid people on the ground. just documented
But that's state. That's not Trump people.
Yeah, but we don't need it. Here's the thing that's really interesting.
But Trump doesn't have many people. Hillary Clinton.
If Trump didn't need it, why is he coming here?
What is the state party's effort? What is our job? Our job is to get Republicans elected. So when you work smart with a campaign, that's how you actually have great outcomes. So you can say, hey, here's the party and here's the candidate. And quite honestly, I can't imagine people meshing well with Hillary's campaign because of who she is and what they've got working around her, given all the emails. But legitimately, the outcome is amazing. The other thing I'll tell you is that he talks about 160 paid people. Donald Trump in Arizona has 12,000 volunteers. Volunteerism is so much more powerful than somebody
and
that
if that's
being
being organized as effectively as his campaign, I'm happy to hear it.
Well, in Arizona, it's our organization. Hey, you guys thought you were going to sweep 2014, and you got miserably defeated, beat down.
All right. Let me step in here. Let's move this forward. Now, you brought up the idea of turning out Hispanic voters. A lot have been made about that. Now, Jan Brewer recently spoke a little bit about that, got herself a little bit of hot water because she was asked if Latino voters would come out and vote. She says, nah, they don't get out and vote. They just don't vote. And that's what she had to say about that. She later kind of apologized for that. But we have seen in past election cycles that the Hispanic vote has not turned out in the numbers that you guys had hoped for. Now, that would hurt Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, it absolutely would. And look, that has been a problem for us. That's been like sort of the big piece that we're trying to figure out election cycle after election cycle. I would say, though, that better than any effort we could make is just Donald Trump opening his mouth and talking about Latinos. It's been fantastic for us in terms of encouraging more young Latinos to get involved in politics, help us organize these communities, and hopefully turn them out big on election day.
Yeah, and we've seen one Arizona. They've claimed that they've registered 150,000 new voters, mostly Hispanic voters. That's got to be concerning for you because Hispanics are not voting for Donald Trump.
When you look at when you see a wave of any party that's engaging in registering voters and getting them out, that is definitely, if you're on the opposite party, you take concern. The one thing that's been, we did that 2 years ago where we had paid operations as well as our volunteers out there. This cycle, it's been organic increases. He talks about 180,000 people. They did this and they tried to close the gap. The gap only closed by 5,000 voters. So that gives you an idea. Again, you have organic growth and you have pushed growth. Look, the Hispanic population, 31%, 50% are under the age of 18. It is legitimate and they are a big productive part of our community, and every party needs to engage them to make sure they
What's the percentage of the Hispanic vote in Arizona that Trump is going to get?
Have no idea. Yeah, I don't think
it'll be a little more than
you're
zero.
going to be surprised. I mean, I think, again, when we see the returns in Pima County, which has a heavier density as far as Latino voters, and in other parts of Arizona, we're seeing a lot of ballots returning. And I'll tell you what, you'd be surprised. I think people right now are overconfident in different demographic voting, and we haven't taken anything for granted. And that's one of the reasons why we'll step into this with victory.
I will give the chairman credit on something. If all Republicans talk like that about engaging with Latino voters, we'd be in a lot of trouble. But they don't.
Well,
both in Congress and both in the top of the ticket, that's not how they talk.
We're doing it in Arizona, and we're talking about Arizona victory. And my job is to win our state, and that's why we're going to do it.
Now, Trump's senior advisor last week was talking about a new campaign strategy, talking about ways, rather than earning more votes, the ways to dampen support and turnout amongst key groups. Here, I want to show you this quote here. It says, it says to suppress the vote by idealistic white liberals who might have been attracted to Senator Bernie Sanders. The campaign would highlight Clinton's support for the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal. Are you concerned about dampening support here amongst voters, and how would that hurt Trump or Clinton more?
Well, I think the reason they're talking about this is the only hope Trump has of winning this election is if Democrats don't show up. That's it. The reason he's coming here is because North Carolina's put in the bag for Democrats, Virginia's put in the bag for Democrats. The map has shrunk to such an extent that we may win we could lose all the swing states and still pull this off.
And that is true. I mean, if you look at the map right now, if Trump did sweep all those swing states out there, we're talking about Ohio and Florida, North Carolina, some of those states,
Arizona,
he would still be short of the 270.
See, this is one of the great things about talking like this and having kind of the inside perspective as it relates to politics. In North Carolina, for instance, Mitt Romney at the day of election was 300,000 votes behind and won that state as the same day voting. Now Trump is ahead. You look at states like Michigan, they're never
ahead.
He's ahead.
He's way down in early ballots. The polls show him losing by 12.
The polls. You know what's so fun for you to talk about polls and we talk about polling bias? I mean, I'll tell you what, all the emails, even Podesta's emails with Atlas and talking about polling bias and how they're oversampling. I'll tell you, anybody that's watching polling right now and they're using that as their barometer for outcome, they've got to recognize this is not a traditional election.
You guys aren't a party that's driven by data analytics. What they're talking about in those emails is you get a bigger sample of a certain part of the electorate.
Oh, come
so
on.
So it's a statistically significant sample.
Again, here's more of the same, trying to sugarcoat something that's actually pretty toxic.
Here's like,
behavior.
if we could create like the truth as physical manifestations, here's where you are, and here's like the actual truth.
Oh man, we'll talk on. Hey, we'll talk on November 8th, and we'll see how it goes. Arizona will be a red state. It will maintain a red state. We've made tremendous progress as it relates to all the communities. You can't deny this. I mean, look, you haven't had people on the ground. When you hear the chairman of the Democrat Party say that the last couple weeks they've started to engage their ground game, come on, you're 4 years behind.
So how is this all going to turn out, though, for McCain and Kirkpatrick in that race right there? It doesn't look too good right now for Kirkpatrick.
You know, the one thing I would say, though, is that Kirkpatrick's closing. We're seeing that in internal data. We're seeing that all over the place. You know, Trump and just the way that the bottom is falling out from here in this state is helpful for Ann. One of the big different dynamics in that race is there's not a libertarian. There's not a place for, like, disaffected and delusional Republicans to go, or sorry, disillusioned Republicans to go. And so, you know, that's one problem for Ann. That said, there's a good chance that not enough Republicans just show up. And if they're really that sort of disheartened by the
I'll just tell you. I mean, back to reality here. So we've got Senator McCain's going to win. Senator McCain, he did very well in the primary. He does well with independents, and he does well with swing Democrats. The numbers are very consistent in his favor, up to 17 points now. So we can talk about closing everything, but the reality is we will maintain both our U.S. Senate seats in Arizona.
And one last quick question. Another huge race everybody's going to be watching here in Arizona, across the country, is Sheriff Arpaio.
Right.
Is he going to win or lose?
This is the mission on the ground. So the whole goal is for victory. So our calculus right now suggests that he is going to win by a fair, decent margin. I mean, it's not going to be the overwhelming kill shots that he's done in the past. This is going to be a tough election.
In Maricopa County, we start down 100,000 voters. Right. The fact that it's even close is an embarrassment for Republicans. And if we're going to win, that is a big, big deal. It signifies a huge change in the state.
Right. Embarrassment from Republicans. I love these comments. You got outside guys like Soros spending over $2 million against Sheriff Joe. And so
Republicans don't get any outside money?
He's doing a good job.
All right. I got to cut the conversation up here because we do have to take a quick break. But we have lots more to come on Politics Unplugged. Still ahead, Fox News claims to be fair and balanced, but one prominent conservative takes a very different view.
You are fascinated with sex, and you don't care about public policy. Now, that's what I get out of watching you tonight.
Still ahead, the speaker speaks out about sex, scandals, and the news.
He is the human Molotov cocktail that they've been waiting for.
And filmmaker Michael Moore says Donald Trump will be the winner on Election Day. Why he says voters will turn a protest into a president. Next on Politics Unplugged.
Who's to blame for their son's death?
You believe she would want your son to be dead?
Yes.
You sorry son of a...
Let me finish.
You are finished!
New Dr. Phil, Monday at 3 on 3TV. Small businesses squashed as downtown Phoenix booms.
It's kind of funny how the multi-billion-dollar company, and they don't have to pay.
How the worst-kept secret about these downtown high-rises has left little guys everywhere feeling... Thursday at 9.
Push a little button and you get hot chocolate. Push a little button and you get some tea. The world's gone mad just pushing little buttons, but what about you and me?
Today, Cox has internet so fast it can power whatever amazing tech the future dreams up.
You push a little button.
100 times more powerful Gigablast internet is here. Bring on tomorrow.
Arizona needs clean, affordable energy. That's why Boyd Dunn, Bob Burns, and Andy Tobin are running for Corporation Commission. Arizona's sustainable solar team. They'll work to keep electricity costs low and support clean, sustainable energy. Dunn, Burns, and Tobin know that Arizona's power grid must be reliable, and they'll represent Arizona taxpayers, not out-of-state special interests. Boyd Dunn, Bob Burns, Andy Tobin, Arizona's sustainable solar team.
Kids don't know how to act fake.
I like your face.
So we're learning to be more like them. Removing artificial flavors and colors from General Mills cereal.
I like his face.
You said you wanted to feel better about your cereal. General Mills Big G cereals hear you. That's why we say yes to whole grain as our first ingredient. And no way to high fructose corn syrup. So no matter what your favorite is, you can feel good about General Mills Big G cereals.
For Corporation Commission, Arizona needs Bill Mundell. Mundell is fighting to protect consumers from unfair utility rate hikes. He's fighting against special interests and big electric companies that want to control the Arizona Corporation Commission. Bill Mundell will fight corruption and bring ethics and transparency back to the commission. And he'll protect Arizona's 10,000 solar jobs to keep us a national solar leader. Bill Mundell is the champion Arizona needs. Vote Bill Mundell for Corporation Commission.
And welcome back to Politics Unplugged. It's now time to talk it out with our partners from First Strategic. With us today is Steve Roman and Barry Dill. Guys, let's just start. We've been talking about this for a long time. Who's going to win? Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump in Arizona? We'll start with you, Barry, the Democrat.
I believe Hillary Clinton will win. I think this has all the earmarks of the 1996 campaign. Her coming on next week, or this week on Wednesday, will energize the base and get the base excited. That's exactly what happened in 1996. Bill Clinton made a last-minute visit, and I think it'll ultimately get her over the top.
She's been going all across the country, obviously, in this final sprint to the finish, and she's trying to help down-ballot candidates. Is that smart, considering that we're seeing the polls tightening?
Well, I'll go back to your first question, because I got to tell you, I would have probably said that she was going to win until the bombshell hit on Friday with regards to the FBI investigation or the continued investigation. And I got to tell you, until
But there's a few more questions about that, because now we're starting to hear that it may have something to do with something else, potentially. Anthony Weiner, the former New York congressman, who can't help but tweet out pictures of things.
Let me finish. What it is going to do, it's going to say she's still being investigated. And there's a lot of Republicans who may not have gotten out and voted because they were just sort of became, you know, I don't care what's going on. And now they're going to get mad, and they may turn out. And I think on the margins, that could be enough to flip it back to the Republicans.
WikiLeaks convinces people to go to Trump.
No, WikiLeaks didn't.
But I mean, it feeds into that narrative about the Clintons, about that there's out to serve themselves.
It does not dismiss the fact that Donald Trump is a sexual predator, that he's a racist, that he demeans military families. It doesn't change. It doesn't change any of that.
Does this turn out for Hillary? Though?
It could. Yeah. Yes, it could. It doesn't help. Let me say that. I don't know if it helps or not, but it doesn't help.
This is a big deal, and what we're looking at right now is we're looking at on the margins, because we have two extremely flawed candidates. They're both awful in my view, and there's a lot of people that feel that way. And the last worst news, and right now this is the most recent worst news, could have some impact on the way people vote.
Can I reply why it doesn't matter?
Sure.
Because I brought a map, okay?
I saw that. You brought a prop.
I brought a map, and on this map, I redid the map to where Trump would win North Carolina, Florida, Ohio, Iowa, Arizona, Utah, and Nevada, and Hillary would still win with 272 electoral votes. Yeah, that's why it doesn't matter.
Hold this up.
1/3 of all of the electorate have already voted. 20 million people have already voted. 54% of which are women who favor Hillary Clinton by 20 points.
And Barry is absolutely right. That is her saving grace right now, is that so many people have already voted. But I will tell you, there's a lot of people that haven't voted, and they're waiting right now to see what happens. And on Election Day, some of those items on those maps, some of those states can change because they're within the margins.
Let's talk a little bit about the polls. Now, we've seen a wide spread here on the polls. I know the AP had a poll out, a national poll that showed Clinton up by 15 points. USA Today's Suffolk poll gives Clinton a 9-point lead there, 47%, 38%. Gary Johnson coming in at 4%, and Jill Stein at 2%. And Fox News shows Clinton with just a 3-point lead. Now, how confident are you guys that this race may be over, Barry?
I'm fairly confident. The polls vary in a big way. You had that discussion just a little bit ago. But let's keep in mind that Barack Obama only won by 4% 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, 4% that's a big victory.
It is a big victory when you're talking about a country of 300 million.
That's correct.
You had an ABC poll that was a tracking poll that started out at like 13 or 14 at the beginning of the week, and then Hillary had a very bad, horrible, terrible, bad week, and suddenly that poll started declining. The polls change. Yeah. And they change up until election day.
Okay, but there is one Clinton supporter out there, at least one high-profile Clinton supporter out there, filmmaker Michael Moore, who thinks this race is already over. Here he is explaining.
Whether Trump means it or not is kind of irrelevant because he's saying the things to people who are hurting. And it's why every beaten down, nameless, forgotten working stiff who used to be part of what was called the middle class loves Trump. He is the human Molotov cocktail that they've been waiting for. The human hand grenade that they can legally throw into the system that stole their lives from them.
You think he's right?
I think that is a very small snippet of an hour and 20-minute movie. And I saw him actually interviewed on this yesterday where he said, the Trump campaign is putting this out and telling people to go look at my clip. The problem is, when they look at my clip, they're going to see my entire movie where I say the worst thing you can possibly do is vote for Donald Trump.
And you've heard a lot of talk this year about the angry voter out there, but I'm looking at polls showing Barack Obama favorability at 55%. People are making more money. People like the direction of the country. What do you think?
I think Michael Moore is very smart, and I think this was a message to Democrats not to become complacent, or else you're going to get stuck.
All right,
with Donald Trump.
Okay, we're going to have to take a break right there. We got lots more to talk about here on Politics Unplugged. Just ahead, here's a switch, a week where Donald Trump stays on message, but his surrogates don't.
I'm sick and tired of people like you using language that's inflammatory that's not true.
Just ahead, distractions on the right, here on Politics Unplugged.
Whoa! Prices really must be falling at Express Flooring.
Call now and save 67.5% on in-stock flooring. Plus, the installation of new carpet is free.
Call 800-EXPRESS.
Where should you start when you're told you have cancer? Start with a specialist. Start where you'll find advanced technology, precision treatment options, and truly compassionate care. Start here with a team of experts who treat only cancer. Every stage, every day. It's not one thing we do. It's the only thing we do. Start at Cancer Treatment Centers of America in Phoenix. The evolution of cancer care is here. Learn more at cancercenter.com/experts. Appointments available now.
If you like Jeeps, you'll love Sullivan Motor Company's Jeep Mania. Hard tops, soft tops, lifted, custom wheels, bumpers, lights, and winches. We've got it all. Dozens to choose from. Pick your Jeep and customize it just how you want it on site. Plus a 3-month or 3,000-mile warranty on all vehicles in stock. And 0% financing OAC. Get $3,000 minimum for your trade. That's only at Sullivan Motor Company's Jeep Mania. Going on this weekend.
It's not uncommon for autistic kids to flap their hands. And so when I saw that, that was completely disqualifying. I'm a Republican, but this election is so much bigger than party. My son Max can't live in Trump world. So I'm crossing party lines and voting for Hillary. I don't always agree with her, but she's reasonable and she's smart. She can work with people to solve problems. I want to be able to tell my kids that I did the right thing when it really mattered.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and I approve this message.
Never gonna fit inside that box. Gonna keep my imagination running wild. We gotta do anything we're told. We go big, we go bold.
With over 80 bedrooms and dining rooms and 150 living rooms, we've got stylish selections for everything you need. These deals end today, so hurry in to the Living Spaces Fall Clearance Event.
We go bold.
It's your turn to nominate the special teacher in your child's life for the 3TV Silver Apple Award. Submit your child's essays about why their favorite teacher is deserving.
Sponsored by your local Arizona dairy farmers and only on 3TV.
We have to
to protect our workers. And we have politicians, either they don't know how to do it or they're taken care of by special interests or whatever. But we're not going to let our jobs go. We're going to bring tremendous number of jobs back into this area and back into our country. That's what's going to happen.
That is Donald Trump in Ohio this past week, and he's staying very much on message, focusing on jobs and the economy. Welcome back to Politics Unplugged with more from our partners with First Strategic and Steve Roman and Barry Dill. And let's, move away a little bit from Donald Trump, and let's talk a little bit about his son. His appearance here, was it important? Is it going to matter in the big grand scheme of things?
I don't think it matters one bit. I mean, first of all, it was gauged to be at millennials. The crowd, from what I was able to see, wasn't all that big anyway. I mean, I think he probably got more mileage out of helping the lady out of gas than he did by...
That was a pretty good moment for him.
But I think that was his best moment, his only good moment.
Yeah, I mean, he's out here trying to gin up support amongst millennials. Did he do it?
I doubt if he had a great impact on that. I think he was setting the tables for his father to show up.
Yeah. Let's talk about Trump. He's going to be here on Saturday, a day before this show airs, actually. What kinds of things are you guys going to expect from Trump while he's here, and why do you think he's here, Steve?
Well, I think he originally came here for what was discussed in the first segment, to shore up his what should be a red state, to shore that up. And I think with all the changes that have taken place in the last 2 or 3 days, I think that's what you're going to be hearing about. You're going to be hearing about that a lot, and I think that probably will help to shore up this state.
I think he'll bring a tremendous hyperbole to his speech, and it will have very little impact on, if he's defending Arizona this close to the election, he knows he's behind.
Now let's talk a little bit about this exchange here on Fox News. A lot of people talking between Megyn Kelly, the anchor of the show, and the former speaker, Newt Gingrich. Now they're talking about a whole lot of things here, like sex scandals and whatnot. Let's take a listen to that.
You know what, Mr. Speaker, I'm not fascinated by sex, but I am fascinated by the protection of women and understanding what we're getting in the Oval Office. And I think the American voters would like to know.
And therefore, we're going to send Bill Clinton back to the East Wing because, after all, you are worried about sexual predators.
Wow, you can say a whole lot about the messenger there with Newt Gingrich making that kind of comment, but we won't get into that. But, as someone, what do you think that means there for the Republican Party? A lot of people see that as kind of a harbinger of things to come, the type of arguments you're going to see post-election.
Well, I think that was, I thought, a disaster for, frankly, the Republicans, because they need women votes. And what was discussed at that point in that particular segment turned off probably every woman that was watching. And, so it was just a bad idea for Gingrich to be getting into that discussion.
I was going to say, Mr. Gingrich is talking about, sex, and Megyn Kelly saying, look, these were sex, we're talking about sexual assaults. It's a lot different.
Gingrich knows a lot about sex. He's been married 3 times, right?
Yes,
right?
Yes.
So for him to cast aspersions is the height of hypocrisy about Megyn Kelly. And again, it just shows the misogynistic nature of the Donald Trump campaign.
But Gingrich also brought up another interesting point here. He says, look, media spends a lot of time covering Trump and his foibles and his controversies, but we're not doing a good job covering the WikiLeaks story. Do you think that's fair criticism?
I think it's totally fair criticism, and I think he's absolutely right in that criticism. He could have gone about it in a completely different way, because once again, he got lost in what basically the emotion of what was being said, as opposed to
about 20 seconds left here.
The foibles from the Trump campaign are so numerous, they can't cover. You guys can't cover all of them. So no, he's completely out of line. On top of that, many would say that the press gave him the upper hand in the primary over the other 16 candidates.
All right, well, that is all the time we have tonight, but be sure to join us next week for more Politics Unplugged.